What if the true Dark Lord never really died? Before Sauron forged the One Ring, there was Morgoth, the god of corruption himself. And in Tolkien's darkest prophecy, it said that one day, he will return, not as a shadow, not as a spirit, but as the end of Arda itself. Few know that Tolkien wrote of an apocalyptic event called the Dagor Dagorath, the Last Battle, a prophecy where Morgoth breaks free from the void, shattering the skies and unmaking the world he once built. And when he returns, even Sauron will bow. But how does he come back? What happens to Sauron, his fallen lieutenant? And how does the prophecy of the first Dark Lord's return reshape everything we know about Middle-earth? This is the return of Morgoth, the forgotten end of Tolkien's world. Stay till the end, because what lies beyond the ring is the true dark lore of Arda. Long before the ring, before Mordor even existed, there was Melkor, later known as Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, the one who taught Sauron everything. But unlike Sauron, Morgoth didn't just want to rule Middle-earth, he wanted to corrupt the entire world itself, to turn creation into chaos. And when the Valar finally defeated him, they cast him out of the world, into the void, a place beyond time and light, or so they believed. But deep in Tolkien's lore, buried in the Silmarillion, lies a prophecy few remember, a prophecy of the Dagor Dagorath, the final battle. It says that in the end of days, when the world has grown old and weary, Morgoth will break the door of night, the gateway to the void, and descend once more upon Arda, his crown of iron burning brighter than the sun. The mountains will melt, the seas will rise, and the Silmarils, those jewels that once captured the light of the two trees, will shatter, releasing that lost light one final time. The prophecy tells of a war so vast that even the Valar, the angelic guardians of Arda, will fight once more. Erendil will return from the heavens in his burning ship, leading an army of the dead, while Tulkas, Enw and Fionn will face Morgoth in battle. And beside them, a man, reborn from the race of men, said to deliver the final blow that will end the corruption of the world forever. The Dagor Dagorath, literally, the battle of all battles, is Tolkien's version of the apocalypse, a final reckoning not of power, but of purpose. But here's the haunting question Tolkien never fully answered. What if the prophecy isn't about the future, but the cycle of time itself? Because every age of Middle-earth mirrors the one before. Morgoth fell, then Sauron rose. Evil is never destroyed, only reborn in new forms. The Dagor Dagorath could be less a prophecy and more a warning, that as long as the memory of Morgoth exists, darkness will always find a way back into the hearts of the living. So when Tolkien writes of the end of Arda, it may not mean the end of the world, but the end of this version of it, a world cleansed and remade from light once lost. And in that moment when the last light fades, and the first sound echoes, Morgoth returns, not as fire but as memory. And that's when the age of control begins. It began with silence, the kind of silence that comes before something ancient wakes. In the deep roots of the world, beneath Mordor and Moria, the earth began to burn, and far beyond the stars, in the cold void where Morgoth had been chained, the door of night, forged by the Valar to seal him away, began to tremble. Then it cracked, and through that rift poured not flame, or shadow, but remembrance, the memory of the first Dark Lord returning to the hearts of all living things. Morgoth didn't return as a man or monster, he returned as a force woven into the fabric of the world itself, a storm that bent mountains and unmade truth. The sun dimmed, the moon fractured, even the stars, once the light of the elves, fled the heavens. This was the end of Arda, not a battle, but an unraveling. The world that Eru had sung into being was collapsing under the weight of its first sin, the sin of rebellion. From the west, the Valar rose again, Tulkas the Strong, Enw the Herald, and Varda, the Queen of the Stars, who wept as her lights were torn from the sky. They descended upon Middle-earth to meet their ancient foe one final time. But Morgoth had changed. He no longer needed armies or fire. His weapon now was despair, a power that spread like plague. Every living heart became a battlefield, every dream a war between light and the echo of his will. And somewhere in the ruins of Barad-dûr, Sauron felt it, the call of his master, the shadow that had once taught him to forge, deceive, and dominate. For the first time in an age, the Dark Lord of Mordor knelt, but Morgoth's return brought no loyalty, only annihilation. To Morgoth, Sauron was nothing more than a broken reflection, a pale imitation of his former power. And so, when they finally met, it was not a reunion but a reckoning. "Master," Sauron whispered, "I kept your flame alive." And Morgoth replied with thunder, "You stole my flame, and turned it into chains." For Sauron's world was not one of rebellion, but of order, a twisted perfection Morgoth despised. He shattered the dark tower, ripped the sky open, and consumed the eye itself, reclaiming the essence that had once been his own. And yet, even as the world ended, there were whispers of resistance, of a final alliance born not of races or realms, but of memories. For every child who still spoke the name of Frodo, Every song that remembered Endil became a spark of light that Morgoth could not erase. And though Arda fell into darkness once more, those sparks began to gather, small, flickering, and defiant. The light was remembering how to fight back. When Morgoth returned, Sauron's empire, once eternal, began to rot from within. The skies above Mordor, once his dominion, now burned with a deeper darkness. The towers that bore the eyes marked melted like wax. "You called yourself Lord of the Rings," Morgoth said, "but you were only guarding my chains." And in that moment, Sauron saw the truth, that all his centuries of conquest were only echoes of his master's design. He was never the heir of darkness, only its echo. Sauron raised the ring one last time, defiant. "Without me," he said, "your name is forgotten." But Morgoth only smiled, for his name was the world. He reached through the fire, through the ring, and crushed it. And when it broke, the eye imploded, drawing in all light, all sound, all memory. Mordor vanished. The world fell silent. The second darkness had begun.